Hey, indie filmmakers, I'm Griffin Hammond.
I'm Nick Bodmer. This is our week off, but we have a bonus episode for you.
Yes. One of the most common questions that I get, Nick, is, it's a very broad question. It's just like, what advice do you have for documentary filmmaking? I get that question a lot.
Small question, easy.
It's hard for me to answer vague questions like that, but I understand where that kind of question comes from, because I think people just want to know that they're not going to make any mistakes. They kind of want to know, like, what don't I know?
Mm-hmm.
And so here's an example of one. I got an email from Brandon, who is about to shoot a short doc about his high school theater group. And he says he's been working on this. He's been thinking about this idea for a long time. He's finally able to do it. So as a documentary filmmaker, any tips before I start? Do you have
Make
any?
it good?
Make it good. Well, one of the things I think about is just, I think if people just understand the ingredients of documentary, that can be really important, like a SOT and B-roll and how these things all play together. So I thought this week for a bonus episode, I would just play a portion of the workshop that I taught at Illinois State University, and just we'll play the part about the ingredients of a documentary film. So starting with just what goes into a documentary. And I think this is important because anytime someone asks me, hey, I'm going on the trip of a lifetime to Tokyo or something, and I want to film some stuff, what do? I usually just tell them the things I learned at TV10, like shoot the elements that you would need for a news story or a documentary, and you'll come home with the pieces you need to actually make something really exciting. So I just want to take a look at a piece of video. We'll watch 1 minute of a documentary I made called Hand Cut about ice in cocktails. And I just want you to pay attention to what is happening, what are you hearing, what are you seeing, what visual elements and audio elements are there. So let's take a look at this.
Bartending has changed. We've stepped up our game. We've gotten better liqueurs. We make our own syrups. Why not better ice?
At The Grain, Blake Bora makes his ice blocks with a cooler in his bar's freezer.
I do make it in-house. It's a very small production.
And cuts them apart with an udon noodle knife. So when I go out to shoot, I enjoy shooting so much now, and it almost feels like improv a little bit. Like, I don't usually plan a shot list of what I want. I like to just kind of go and see what makes me feel good behind the camera. But if you had to write down like a shopping list for the things you need in a documentary, what are some of the things you saw here, like parts, ingredients that you need to tell this kind of story? Anything you heard? Yeah.
Like a lot of different shots and angles. Yeah,
a lot of different angles. In fact, I mean, you may notice from my style, I like to pack a lot of visuals in, so I'm not sure I even linger on a shot for longer than 1 second. So there's a lot, even in just that 1 minute. What else did you see or hear?
Street sounds.
Yeah, there was New York City noise for that time lapse. There's music, so that's another thing we're hearing. What else? Yeah.
So you had some semblance of like an interview?
Yeah, there was an interview in there. We hear that person talking.
I'm just thinking about the variety of shots. You got external shots that are close, wide, medium, and then interior shots that are close, wide, medium. A lot of visual variety to choose from.
Yeah. And I think variety was a big thing I took away from your class. Like in any media that you create, you should have a great variety to keep it interesting, especially in a visual medium. What else did you hear or see?
I didn't see because I can't see back there, but I'm guessing there were some signs and some things that tell you where we were.
Yeah, I think there were a few graphics. Like one of them, I think said Blake Bora, the bartender, like a name tag. There might have been a locator, I can't remember.
Were there signs outside the bars with their signs or logos or anything?
You know, I don't even do that so much anymore. I feel like because I pack in a lot of visuals, you could probably tell someone where the place is without explicitly showing them the signage. Sometimes the sign outside a bar is pretty ugly, and so I'd prefer not to. Yeah.
I like that it goes from presenting like the huge block of ice down to like melting in the glass, and then maybe like the time lapse of it like actually like fully melting, so really cool.
Yeah. Well, and it's good that we're talking about variety of shots and different like close-ups and wide shots, because I still remember from my TV10 days is anytime you're on a tripod, instead of making yourself move a lot, just every time you set up, get a wide shot, medium shot, close-up, and you have 3 options in the edit. Anything else you heard?
Like crystal.
Yeah. Yeah, there's the sound of the things you're seeing. Yeah. Anything else? I feel like we've pretty much covered everything that's in it. So our list that we've come up with, and this is basic. I mean, it's in every local news story. It's in every documentary. Really, any kind of piece that, I mean, even in a fiction film, you'll have elements like this. The main one is an interview, and I still call them a SOT, which is what I learned in TV 10. But also, I've been working in television. I've been working at Bloomberg TV covering the election, and we still use the term SOT, sound on tape. It feels like an outdated term because we're not recording it on tape. But I also just love how short it is. I only have to type that in a file name, like Blake SOT, and I know what it means. So we have, that's audio and visuals. There's my voiceover. I guess we didn't even mention that. I actually talk throughout the thing. I don't always love to use my own voice, but people seem to like my voice, so I keep using it as a tool in my films. It's also just free. It's one less actor that I have to get. There's B-roll. I mean, a lot of what we talked about is B-roll. All the footage that covers the SOT. And we'll talk a little bit about editing later in the presentation about the importance of B-roll. But all those close-ups and everything. And then nat sound and nat sound breaks. Anyone know what nat sound is? Natural sound, yeah. Sometimes I guess we call it wild sound sometimes. There's a few ways I record natural sound. It may just be the built-in microphone on the camera. It may be that I walk around with an audio recorder and a microphone and put it up close to the ice while he's chipping it. So I'm always getting nat sound, the real sound that's happening. It becomes useful even if like that time lapse doesn't have any sound because it's photographs. But surely I shot some other footage of the city and I can pull street sounds from it. So I'm always getting nat sound. And a nat sound break in documentary is just when you let that nat sound speak for itself for a moment. You drop away the voiceover, the interview audio stops, and it's letting the natural sound. And there's a few of those in this clip where all we're hearing is the chipping of the ice. So that's a nat sound.
The mallet on the knife.
Yeah, when he's banging on the knife. I mean, that's all important sound. I want to hear it regardless, even if I'm talking over it or Blake is talking over it. I still want to hear that in the background. But when I let it just kind of be its own scene, that's a nat sound break. Anything you notice about this list? Is it heavier on visuals or audio?
Audio.
Yeah, it's a very audio-heavy list. And this is what I think about when I'm making documentary, is I know I need a ton of visuals, and we'll talk about that. But audio is how I build the story. It's how I start the edit. Really, I need audio to make a documentary. And so my focus is really starting with audio.
Okay, Griffin, we will be back Wednesday, June 6th with a full episode.
Yeah. And in the meantime, if you are curious about more documentary filmmaking tips, you can always check out my class on Creative Live at griffinhammond.com/class, which has lessons like you just saw and many more. So thanks for watching.
So much more.
We'll see you next week.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye. Sounds like my job's pretty easy this week. Let's roll the tape.